Okay, so moving on, this is part two in the emerging adult video series. So we're going to focus on sex in this particular part here. So the reproductive system for an emerging adult 18 to 25 is at its most efficient, and contraception is quicker, miscarriage less common, serious birth complications are fewer. Orgasms are more frequent, testosterone is higher. So if we have two emerging adults, 20 years old, sexually active using no contraception, how many months does it take to conceive? 3 months on average. So again, the reproductive system is really at its most efficient right here at this time. All right. In the United States and worldwide, women 30 years of age and older are having more children, and women 30 years of age and younger are having fewer children than they did 20 years ago. So emerging adults, although they are at their reproductive most efficient, they do not want early marriage. They do not want children right away. They do not want celibacy. Their preferred solution then is premarital sex with reliable birth control methods. But this can have some psychological consequences, and we'll go into those as we go a little further here. Also, there are health consequences. So sexually transmitted infections are at a very high rate for emerging adults. Half of all new cases worldwide are in people younger than age 26. The highest rate is among emerging adults. So there are health consequences to this, of being able to be having sexual relationships, um, and potentially having multiple sexual relationships with different partners. So the current practice for emerging adults is what is called serial monogamy, where we might have one relationship and then that relationship may end, and then a new partner would be had, and this can go on. It's a serial monogamy. And that is that is one of the big contributors to the problem with sexually transmitted infections. Okay, so you can limit the increase of sexually transmitted infections if after each relationship, if serial monogamy is a choice, if after the ending of a relationship that partners have a time when they are celibate for a number of months and are checked by a doctor for any sort of sexually transmitted disease, treated for that before moving on to another relationship. So I mentioned briefly the emotional consequence to this serial monogamy. Okay, I took a quick break there, so let me jump back in here and start with attitudes about the purpose of sex. They can vary. There can be cultural differences. So among emerging adults, they were asked about their opinions of the purpose of sex, and the first choice was reproduction. Is reproduction the purpose of sex? Second choice is relationship. Is relationship, being close to another person, the purpose of sex? And the third choice was recreation. Is recreation the purpose of sex? So emerging adults were given these three choices: reproduction, relationship, or recreation. And they surveyed a number of emerging adults, and these were the results. Reproduction, 25%. Actually, I misspoke here a little bit. These are all people in the United States, so maybe it wasn't just emerging adult age group, but many other age groups as well. But reproduction came in at 25% as the purpose of sex. Relationship came in as 50%. So more women than men, said relationship is the purpose of sex. So this dating, falling in love, deciding to be faithful, having sex, maybe living together, marriage, this sort of progression, the relationship, was the idea mostly, or more so, voted for by women than men, but 50%. And then recreation, 25%. So more men than women were in this category, but that it's orgasm without commitment. So the recreation piece scored lower, the reproduction piece scored lower, and then relationship was scoring the highest. But this can set people up for disconnects. So if one of the people in this partnership has relationship as what they're really wanting out of a sexual encounter, and the other partner wants just recreation, you can see where there's a mismatch in the in what they want out of having sex together, being together. And then these problems can it can sometimes occur, including depression. So you want to talk together with a partner about what it is that they're interested in for this relationship. Uh, okay, so let's see. Okay, I think I'll finish up this last segment or part of the emerging adult videos by focusing a little bit more again on the psychological consequence of sexual relationships for the emerging adult. So there can be emotional stress around relationships. And a new relationship can make a person happy, can make a person also somewhat anxious. And breakups can certainly lead to depression. And if you think about the idea of the serial monogamy, multiple relationships, there may be multiple breakups. And so this sort of cycle can contribute potentially to depression or even more feelings of anxiety. So sexual relationships can trigger brain systems. So the brain is involved here, how the brain works, and this attachment and romantic love, dopamine, it can contribute to the increase of the stress and the emotional entanglements we can get into, can contribute then to increasing the emotional stress. I mentioned the problems with the disconnect if one person is interested in reproduction with the relationship, let's say, and the other partner is more interested in the relationship piece. And the more partners that one has, the more breakups, the more stress. These things can contribute to psychopathologies that might emerge during emerging adulthood. So when we talk about psychopathologies, the top three for this age group include depression, anxiety, and schizophrenia. So that's what the next part of this video series will focus on.